客か。
Back I am, continue we do. So that is supposed to be Sherlock Holmes? I didn't know he wears an eye patch. One man was standing at the far end of the room, a strange man wearing a black coat even though he was indoors.
よく見ればコートだけではなくて、全身すべてが黒。黒い髪、黒い服。
But he has a red ribbon thing, or how you call it. And he smokes a brown cigarette.
黒い眼帯は
It's more
フェイクではなく
cigars.
本物。
His left eye had a watery color. For some reason, she was reminded of the nightmare. She still didn't know if that evening was real or a dream, but Mary had decided not to think about it. Just thinking wouldn't tell her anything. So when she saw the man's eye, Mary stopped herself from remembering. Which was why, deep in the man's eye, she didn't notice the presence of that frighteningly cold and inorganic black city.
あなたがミスター・ホームズ。私は。
He didn't match the picture in Mr. Watson's books. He didn't look like he had a hawk nose to her. His residence didn't match either. Mary wondered to herself whether the biographies were all wrong on purpose.
地下鉄を使わなかったらしいな。テムズから徒歩か。
That voice kinda sounds familiar, don't you think?
どこから来たか知っているんですか？
It sounds a little bit
Mr.
like
Holmes.
the voice that guided us, you know, through dark London just a while ago.
名前もな。故に自己紹介を遮った。お前は名はメアリー。メアリ・クラリッサ・クリスティ。
So he knows her for some reason, huh?
当たっている。なぜ？
Because he's Sherlock Holmes.
王立赤学院に入学を許されて今年で2年目。
これも当たっている。
テムズ第七沿岸の下宿暮らし。大家はハドソン。
What, are you a stalker or
こ
what?
れも当たり。どうして？
疑問に思うという顔だな、メアリ・クラリッサ。
はい。なぜでしょうか？
初歩的な推理というやつだ。
Yeah, right.
その服の裾についたエンジン肺炎のすすは北欧帝国製の新式エンジンのものだ。ロンドンでは使用されている箇所は2つ。テムズ第七沿岸南の紡績エンジン工場かイーストサイド第一総合工業地帯か。各地の所要時間と飛散するすすの量から前者であると判断した。さらにその風貌から赤学院の女学生であるのは一目瞭然だ。ただの中流の娘は一人歩きなどしない。テムズ第七沿岸北で赤学院の女が部屋を借りるのならば女性大家の下宿を除いて他にはない。第七沿岸北にある下宿のほとんどはとある商会の経営だ。個人経営の女性大家はハドソン一人。そしてお前の名だがそれなりに有名だ。
Oh, she is?
昏睡状態の続くブロンテ家令嬢の傍らで医師に食ってかかった女学生がいたとな。メアリ・クラリッサ・クリスティ。お前の名は医師の間ではすでに有名だ。
すごいと思う。すべての推測が当たっている。でも私の顔まではお医者様は。
Well, look at your eyes.
その右目、
Of course.
目立つ風貌であると自覚がないのか。まあいい。では本題に入る。お前の目的はブロンテ家令嬢であるシャーロットの回復。そうだな。
はい。まるで紳士には見えない傲慢な物言いに失礼な態度。
He doesn't seem that rude to me. Several behaviors unbefitting of a British gentleman. His speech was rough as well. But he really had been right about everything. That was why Mary simply answered and waited for his words.
では話は一つだ。これはお前の知らない社会の話だ。これは組織に触れる話だ。
A certain organization.
人間にとっては甚だしく危険なとある赤学組織の話だ。
Dangerous for humans.
赤学の組織。そこから先の話はあまりに突飛でバカバカしくて。
Well, let's have a hear.
私は混乱してしまう。この眼帯の人は何を言ってるの？信じられない。そんなダイムノベルみたいな。でも今のこの私は くしかなかった。どんなに突拍子がなくてもすがるためにここに来たのだから。
He told her of an organization hiding in Britain. Or more accurately, he told her of a secret society that gathered scholars. It had many names, but was only one group, that organization hiding in Europe. In Britain it was simply called the Society. Its activities ranged from innocent scientific experiments to the perpetration of serious crimes. One of the things they researched was how to kill people via delusions. It was an explanation for that nightmare, but she couldn't help thinking it was too simple. Could delusions really cause pain? Pain which felt that real?
私は疑ってしまう。でも疑念は口にしなかった。続く話に気を取られて。
One of the men involved was the organization's research on delusions was given a professorship by the Royal College of Scholars. That was 1 year ago. The man's name was Joseph Capek, a prodigy and scholar of Eastern Europe.
ヨゼフ・チャペック博士。その名を私は知っていたから。
あとはお前の自由だ。俺は多忙のため調査活動は行わない。だがお前には目がある。依頼料にと用意した金もあるだろう。その目、右目の黄金銅、飾りではあるまい。
Does it have some special ability?
黄金銅。妙な違和感があった。なぜだろう。どこかで聞いたような言葉。
カダスにおいては現在の真実を見抜き、過去の古きものを見通すと言われている稀有な印だ。
Oh, it can?
それが黄金銅。欧州における妖精眼とは別物だ。
真実と過去、秘密の赤学の組織、それにヨゼフ・チャペック博士、あなたの言葉を信じていいのですか？私にはとても。
言っただろう。あとはお前の自由だ。言葉を信じるのもお前の自由。そうしないのも同じく。自ら焦る必要はない。同じく早々と諦める必要もない。待て。しかして希望せよ。
聞き覚えのある言葉。確かモンテクリスト博の一節。
Oh, is it? I never read that.
私の好きな言葉。作品自体は残酷すぎるけれど。
Suspicion had been welling up in her heart ever since he suddenly started his long, incredible tale, but now it lessened slightly. The several threads of tension constricting her body were broken.
大デュマですね。
Dumas?
わかるか？
本は好きなんです。あなたもお読みになるんですね。
In response to a question, there was only a murmur. It was not even clear whether he was happy or unhappy about it. 1 second passed. 2 seconds passed. Finally, after Mary started to worry, the man whispered along with a sigh. His expression didn't flinch.
愛読書だ。モラン。
The man spoke, and the silhouette appeared in the center of the room. Literally without a sound, as if it had been standing there from the beginning. It was a tall person, probably even taller than the man. So, Mr. Sherlock Holmes is the same man that also was near the Steel Dragon. At first glance, one might mistake her for Queen's Guard, but hers was an army uniform. Of course, no one could see her wearing it if she didn't want them to. The suggestion come of large type army uniform made by the society allowed her to disappear from view by melting into the shadows.
目標 A が接触してくること予測済みでいましたか、主？
うすうすはな。しかし、奴の真似は随分と疲れるものだ。
Imitate that man? Does that mean he isn't really Sherlock Holmes? The man smiled slightly. She couldn't see any sign of emotion in it. Even the man served in military garb. Even Moran may not have been able to tell.
モラン、メアリ・クラリッサの監視を続行しろ。
はい。
あの娘、お前を見たそうだな。
はい。
暗示迷彩をまとったお前を。
はい。
興味深い。
It seems he has some interest in her.
さて。
If it isn't Mr. Münchhausen. The man spoke. He was a man wearing a strange mask. It looked similar to clowns and like French aristocrats from the previous century. A strange person, the mask and clothes made him think that. It is said that countless fictions spread from that man's mouth. That man who began to speak to the person before him. A room with a strange pattern in its marble floor. The man sitting in the sofa and one other were there. The room was strange, just like the man himself. A number of masks lined the old walls and bookshelves. People called it a space of tranquil knowledge, the same few people who spoke the man's name. A space of tranquil knowledge. In this place it is said that even an infant's whisper would surely reach his ears. A room made using knowledge from the organization the man belonged to, which even made possible the multiple simultaneous conversations performed by a holy man of the Far East. A secret room of darkness. Could it be called an altar?
さて、ここに我が輩は宣言するでしょう。
Did we saw that scene already? Of the beginning of the grand experiment, of the beginning of profound cognizance, and the start of a new era.
文明だけでなく、人間の精神もまた変容を免れぬのだと。すなわち、誰も彼もが明日には狂っているのです。
We'll be mad tomorrow?
しかし過程としまして、絶望と名付けられた甘美を受け入れず、もがく者が一人でも残っていたなら。
What is he up to? There was laughter in the man's voice. The one he spoke to was silent.
かのハイエージェント M は苦悶の末に噴死することでしょうな。
There was ridicule in the man's voice. The one he spoke to was silent.
なるほど。そういうこともあるでしょうが、そうでないこともあるでしょう。さて、我らが愛してやまない人間の皆様、どうかご承覧あれ。一人目は失敗いたしましたが、二人目がおります。
A second.
これなるは新たなる検体。これなるは新たなる霊媒なる一人。
A new cadaver, a new medium.
であるがゆえに、すべてはここから始まるのです。
To be continued. Hello? Do I have to click? Yes, I have to.
私があなたを守るから、怖いことの全部から私が。じゃあメアリがあなたを守ってあげる。王子様が来てくれるまでね。
暗い。ここはなんと暗いのだ。石畳の路地を歩く革靴の乾いた音が響く。それ以外に何の音もない。いや違う。耳を澄まさずとも聞こえてくるはずだ。あと2つの音がある。聞こえてくるのは私の靴音だけではない。焦りを込めて早足に歩くこの音の他にもあと2つ。1つは息遣い。ヒューヒューと苦しげな私の息がある。歴史上最高の繁栄を謳歌する大英帝国、首都ロンドンの暗がりを歩く男の息だ。私の息だ。もう一つの音は、私はそれを形容することができない。闇から迫るその音を私は決して認めない。ここには誰もいない。ここには誰もいないのだ。私の靴音と息遣いともう一つ以外には何もない静寂の世界の中にあった。私はそう信じていた。誰もいないのだ。ここには私しかいないのだと。夜闇を絶え間なく照らすエンジン街灯はある。2ブロック先のエンジン工場の駆動音もある。けれどここには私だけ。ここは大都会であるはずの都市ロンドン、ウェストミンスターエリア。それなのに私しかいない。生きるものも動くものも私だけ。そんなはずはない。そんなはずはない。私は歩いている。息を潜めようとしながらも荒い息で、靴音を鳴らさずにと考えつつも早足に。私の歩みは速くなる。 私は迫り来るものを感じているから。逃げろ、逃げろ、逃げろ、逃げろ。背後のもの、それはあり得るはずのない無限の暗がり。
I have the feeling this is also a scene we already saw.
この暗がりに追いつかれたら殺される。待ち構えたあいつの牙で殺される。暗がりから追いかけながらも同時に待ち構えているあいつに誰も逆らうことなどできはしない。生贄となった少女の悲鳴が続く限り、あいつは何者をも殺すことができる。私や少女が恐れるものさながらの力で殺すことができるのだ。生きとし生けるあらゆるものを殺すのだ。けれど、もしもこの身が闇であって恐怖そのものであったならば。
Echoing sounds, echoing sounds. Was it both cries of steel that rang out from the cradle of the engines? A giant dragon of steel hidden deep underground, neither speaking nor moving. The multi-connector supermassive calculation engine was a dragon of steel. Not many humans knew that this tunnel was called the engine corridor.
我が主、M を知る者と、おそらくその数はおおむね同じであるはずだ。
For example, they say he is a knight who dreams of the revival of old Germany. They say he is the head of a secret society writhing in the darkest corners of Europe. They say he has attained the position of Diogenes. At the foot of her highest the queen who governs Britain. Deep underneath London, countless engines were joined together to create this tunnel, a corner of the engine corridor that forms part of the brain of Britain.
回路を思う者もいる。祭壇を思う者もいる。
You must never set foot in that place if you value your life. You must not even imagine what lies hidden inside if you value your life. Not one respectable human existed there. There was only darkness, black and steel.
主と私とエンジンの摇篮の中で私はそこでつながるのだ。インフォメーションエンジンと第二次接続。フラグメント監視網の強化を確認。これより市内全域の再設定を行います。一つ一つゆっくりと。
She probably looked human to those who didn't know her. The woman looked at the body built from state-of-the-art engines.
女の形をした私は己を見る。自身の体を。
Removing, equipping, connecting one by one, little by little. Adding more and more to her functionality while losing a part of herself. The woman connected her circuits to new circuits, one by one, as if checking them individually. The woman's voice shook. The words were directed at the man gazing upon her. The black man was silent behind her, gazing at the woman adjusting herself. He dragged a number of cables towards her, slowly attaching them to the woman's back.
報告は？
はい。目標への監視状況について報告します。メアリー・クラリッサ・クリスティは事前予測と同一の行動をとっています。危険な状況です。
She's in danger?
自動化された結社保安部門は8時間以内に彼女を排除するでしょう。
Oh no.
予測通りだ。
The black man spoke quietly. He touched his cold hand to the woman's cheek.
第32情報経路を封鎖しろ。目標 A は貴重だ。決して結社の機関部には見せる。
Why is she so important for him?
はい。しかし
Important to him.
構わん。
The man didn't continue. He simply let silence fill the corridor. After a while, the woman spoke, as if whispering, as if murmuring.
はい。了解しました。そして私は命令を実行する。情報の海の中で。
The energy produced by steam engines was not the only thing flowing through the conduits that waved beneath the engine city of London. Information quantified for efficient transfer filled the flow of the higher class conduits. It was, in a sense, the brain of London. The flowing information was vast, without limit. The woman looked at each and every datum. The overseas business transactions of trading companies, encrypted data from banks and security companies, even behavioral information based on citizen numbers. As long as her own engine brain continued to function, and she remained connected to this deep, vast engine corridor, the woman's eyes could see all of London.
暗号化された結社情報でさえ、私にとってはたやすいこと。一人の無力な少女を取り巻く影たち。彼らへの指令情報を書き換える。
The enormous illegal organization that was the society praised it as a hive mind, but in reality it was just organized crime. Guns, knives, poisons. Efficient use of these violent methods was extremely useful for keeping the organization running smoothly. The woman herself was one of those methods, because she was one of the many parts of the organization. She knew what to do. She knew which and how much information to obstruct or alter in order to prevent automatic examination of Objective A. She felt something strange in the corner of her brain circuit, perhaps deep in her heart, the 32nd conduit.
第32情報経路の封鎖に成功。命令の完遂を確認。命令を完遂しました、主。
よくやった。
はい。
Something felt strange, something felt suspicious. This had never happened before. The woman had never felt suspicious, nor had the man ever told her to save a human. Nor had the man ever shown interest in a mere human. It had never happened.
私はとっさに感情回路を閉鎖する。
So does that mean her master isn't human?
けれど、私は感情回路を閉鎖せずに、ただ、
Or he just isn't interested in his own kind?
私の背中に触れるあなたの指を感じ取る、主。
The cables controlling the woman's connection to the corridor were removed, and a voice slides out of her throat. The voice of Moran, a city battle-type engine doll. A voice from the woman's body, not the engine machines. Her whisper reached the man. The man didn't answer. He silently touched the woman's back. He silently touched the cables.
主、あなたは私に興味を抱かない。あらゆるすべてに興味を抱かない。そのあなたがなぜ彼女を見るのですか、主。我が主。
Because she is heterochromia, and that is fascinating. She felt part of her motion circuit burning. Even though no part of her was broken, it was always like this. Out of all the circuits she was given to fulfill the master's orders, one and only one had no apparent purpose, her emotion circuit. At times it malfunctioned like this. It brought about incomprehensible thoughts. It brought about incomprehensible actions.
モラ、耐えなさい。感情回路は破損などしていない。
The woman endured the new thoughts. However, she couldn't disobey her desire to act. If this was a program made by the society, she would curse the one who wrote it. The more she approached, the more he distanced himself.
主、我が主。
There was no answer. There was no answer. Nothing but wordless silence filled the corridor.
私はそれを許可であると受け取った。だから、背後の主へと振り返る。背中とつながるケーブル板を移動させながら。 主の唇へ口づける。確かに人間の形をした。そこへ。
It should be enough if I censor here. The man didn't reject her. He only looked at her languidly for a moment. The woman's lips touched the man's instead of asking all her questions. She knew the man was unenthused, not just about kissing, but about everything. He cared nothing for any sort of phenomenon. He never had, at least not as far as the woman knew. Not once since the woman entered this woman-shaped construct to serve the man. He showed interest in nothing. He was moved by nothing.
私の唇が主の体温を感知する。私とは違う唇。血の通った温かな唇。けれど主、あなたの唇は誰よりも冷たい。
His eyes weren't looking at the woman's body becoming exposed in the darkness, at the expansive body made by a first-rate engineer. The man did not look at the body of a woman, the body chosen by the insane core of the society, desiring both beauty and functionality. What was he looking at? At the darkness in the depths of the corridor, or perhaps at the cables connected to the woman's back? Not rejecting her was his only saving grace, so the woman focused on devouring the man's lips, pressing hers against them, touching them with her tongue, stealing his body heat. No matter how many times the woman asked, with her lips and tongue, two of the few organs made from organic parts. The man wouldn't react. He just sat silently, unmoving. He didn't close his open left eye. He didn't feel his closed right eye. He only didn't reject the woman's, Moran's, actions.
あなたは何も問わない。私の命令のないこの行動にさえ興味を抱くことはない。なのに。
He probably likes it and is just too embarrassed to say anything.
なぜ
Despite knowing her non-standard emotion circuit was out of control, she didn't stop it, even after parting the man's lips and feeling the heat of his tongue. He wouldn't reject. She clung to that. Driven by desires that should be impossible for Dol, she wanted his living warmth, since he couldn't reject her even if he didn't want it.
主の視線の意味を恐れて、私はまぶたを閉ざす。作り物の唇であなたに触れる。あなたがたとえ何も感じていなくても。
She put more strength into the hands placed on his shoulders. Amidst the low, heavy noises filling the whole of the corridor, the actuating sounds of the woman's body were faintly audible. And then the woman realized everything she was doing now was now as a fake. She realized how comical, how foolish, how meaningless it was. Hesitation separated their lips. The woman moved just 1 inch away from the man.
我が主 M あなたがここへとどまる限り私はお供いたします。どうかお答えください。彼女はあなたにとって必要ですか？
Would he react to her strained voice? The woman expected an answer of silence. However, the man's lips hadn't moved at all until then, but...
必要だ。
はい、了解しました。私は再びあなたに口つける。少しだけ強引に。
She automatically ignored the various circuits asking for a reason for the man's answer. The woman touched the man's tongue with her own. After a short while, the man moved. Not only had he answered her question, but he moved. Normally such a thing would be impossible. A movement of rejection. He picked up the woman's clothes from beside the mantel chair and put them on the woman's shoulders in silence. Silence, but definitely a rejection. He places the army uniform with suggestion camouflage on the woman's shoulders. The woman's body quivered.
主。ああ、我が黒の主。M、私の命令にない行動を咎めてください。私の回路動作の異常を咎めてください。咎めてください。
But the man didn't say a word. He only gestured for the woman to put her clothes on. The woman gripped the man's right hand, holding the army uniform. She could feel human skin.
なんだ?
A question. Words. The woman had no means of responding.
申し訳ありません。
The woman had hoped for further rejection. However, the man said nothing more. Which was why the woman held the man's hand and neglected yet more grating in her emotion circuit. She overlooked the faulty behavior of her own body. Heat built up in her emotion circuit and control system. It was a clear abnormality, but to the woman it didn't matter.
拒絶してください。主。私にもあなたに。
It seems I don't have to censor anything here because I don't see anything that would be worth censoring.
申し訳ありません。
The woman's body was far heavier than any human's, and it changed the man's posture. No ejection. The man relinquished control. If she put her hands against him, he would respond, even to the woman's desires which shouldn't exist. Even if he felt nothing from her synthetic skin, even if he felt nothing from her organic parts, the man did nothing to reject the woman's actions. That was why the woman touched the man, that was why the woman touched the man. That was why the woman caught the man's body with her own.
つながることもできる。こうして、それに意味がないとしても、主は私に与えない。ただ、拒絶しない。ただ、それだけ。それでいい。私はこれ以上求めないから。
Another needless part, designed along with the emotion circuit connected to the man with an indescribable sensation. The man makes no noises. The woman was getting excited on her own, not that she gained anything from touching organic flesh, but her emotion circuit grated. She could tell she was acting abnormally. The woman felt heat in all of her circuits and nerve control systems.
私は声を漏らす。健常な人間の男女がそうするように。お許しくださいますか?
There was no answer. There was no answer. There was only his gaze perceiving a little of the woman's eyes.
あなたは拒絶しない。あなたは許可しない。ああ、そうか。 そうですね、主。
Somehow it doesn't feel like I have to cut that scene.
あなたが変わったわけではない。何かに興味を抱いたからといって。お許しください。私は壊れています。けれどあなたの目的を阻害することはありません。昨日は一つも損なうことなく任務を果たします。
There was no answer. There was no answer. Instead, the man slowly extends his hand. The man's fingers, his palm touches the woman's cheek. The woman's body leaps. More than anything, it was nothing compared to their bodies being connected. The man's hand, the man touching her through his own will. That made her circuits grate more than anything, the sensation of electricity flowing backwards along her nervous system. Her limbs stiffened, her excitement heats her circuits and body, almost maddening her. Coolant drips from her body's surface like sweat.
あなたが見ている私の光学機械でできた瞳を、あなたが触れる私の作り物の顔に。
The woman's suspicion solidifies. Several of her circuits repair themselves before going mad, ignoring his form, his true nature, his everything. The woman felt that was fine, even if mimicking humans by connecting was meaningless, even if this man felt nothing.
そう、いいのです、あなたは。あなたは何もかもを感じることがない。何もかも、ロンドンも、人も。あなたの肉体がどうなろうとも、あなたは構うことはない。あなたは、そういう。だから私は、狂ったままでいられる。すべての回路が壊れても。
As long as the woman existed to accomplish a mission, the man wouldn't reject her. The man wouldn't deny being beside her. Even if that meant the man would lose his existence and every circuit in her body burned up, the woman didn't care. Her motion circuit grated, saying that was fine, because that was what she had acquired this body for.
Mora.
The man's lips moved, with a silence showing no sign of excitement.
はい、主。
お前、女の体は何度目だ?
Oh, that's not the first one.
2度目です。
Second.
1度目は機械鏡閣下に破壊。
The Machine Lord? Who or what is that?
似合っている。そのままでいろ、お前は。
はい、了解しました。
そういえば、お前の元の体は女だったか？
覚えていません。記憶回路に情報はありません。覚えている。忘れはしない。どんなに記憶回路を積み替えても、どんなに記憶回路を書き換えられても、それだけは忘れられない。覚えていません。
そうか。
The man's words end. He definitely hadn't felt anything. He'd done nothing more than speak of something he could remember. Despite that, the woman felt nothing from it. She grew more excited. Something of herself was recorded in the man's brain, or perhaps simply the fact that the man had spoken about her. Just the fact that the man's consciousness had been directed towards her.
私は覚えています。我が主。まだあの日のことを。
He didn't have to remember. She didn't care if he forgot. She could just keep remembering it herself. The woman closed her eyes and thought wordlessly to herself.
忘れはしない。どんなに期待を乗り換えても。忘れはしない。女だ。今も。私は。